journalist, because you realize as a journalist, it's your work to put the story out there.
Right.
Yeah, so you realize there are a number of stories we've been working on, and each story comes up with its own type of challenge. You go, especially you realize that it is very awkward for some people to see you working or walking around with cameras very late in the night.
Right.
Like you can imagine at 2 a.m. and you have a camera somewhere. People don't find it normal, so they don't really have you in good faith.
I'm sure they're thinking you're trying to rat them out or investigate something that would paint them in bad light.
That's what I'm talking about. For example, let me talk to you about the story we did at the Dagoretti Abattoir.
Right.
The Dagoretti Abattoir, we went to do a story there about these people, how they are hardworking. They wake up very early in the morning. They go to work to just put food on the table. But what they said behind the scenes when we were not rolling our cameras was frightening. You would feel like these people will actually beat you anytime from now.
Right.
They'll tell you that it is these same people who came here some years back, and it resulted to our slaughterhouse being closed down. So they don't really have you in good faith. You go to cover a story at the Marikiti market, and you know of issues of brokers, you know of issues of city-county askaris. There have been complaints of such nature. Then they don't really. We were actually harassed that morning when we went to cover a story at Marikiti market, and someone claimed to be a county askari.
Right.
And they asked us what media house we were coming from, despite our microphone having been branded KTN, despite us having had our cards. They didn't ask for them. But it creates a feeling in people that, but why are they here? And when it creates that type of feeling, it shows you clearly that probably you need to come back some other day because,
there's probably something. But let's talk about probably media space, because Kenyan media hasn't really had that culture of covering stories and news at night. And this is the first time we're doing this even at KTN. How is that reception from the residents themselves, just the fourth estate doing its job? Because the same way they're doing their job is the same way you're also earning a living on the street at night.
Well, there's a lot of appreciation from the viewers. When we do these stories and some people are not very receptive and they ask me to leave them my number, probably because they want to see what type of story I'm going to air, if they'll give me a call and tell me, we told you not to do this.
Right.
Now they call me and say, oh, that was a nice story. And I think there's a very good reception. And as you say, it's a new culture we are trying to bring in, and KTN probably could be the very first one to have actual night shifts whereby people are working in the newsroom the entire night.
Absolutely, and that's great to see. But also just, it's interesting because when you started doing the segment while you were asleep, then I realized this really is some sort of 24-hour economy, because there's always somebody up and about doing something. Talk to us about the experience in terms of what you learned and how your perspective was opened up when you started doing this.
My perspective on this is that the 24-hour economy is actually possible. Every person I've spoken to, even without me asking them this question, they always answer me and tell me it is not true that there are no jobs. Someone selling their egg somewhere will tell you that I chose to do this. The last time you remember, we did a story about 2 teachers who abandoned the chalk. From teaching to, selling eggs at night. To selling eggs at night. They told us a lot of things. They told us that it is difficult to find people who will leave their profession to come and do some jobs which some people consider not very decent. So there's that perspective that keeps coming up, and there are many opportunities out there in the night, but then there's always been one challenge that they talk about. I don't know what is the type of relationship. It doesn't really look like there's a very good relationship between these people who work at night and the county askaris.
And I mean, first of all, that would bring up even issues of security, because one of the reasons why it's so unbelievable to see people working in the middle of the night in town is the security situation in the country. We know this is when gangs are up working. So what is the security situation for those working at night, especially as small businesses, and even for you going out at night?
Well, I talked to someone who was, the day we did a story about those who were selling boiled eggs in town. And one of them told me that they live by grace. And I also think for us with my cameraman, Timon, because we've been working together for a couple of weeks,
Right.
I think we're also working by the grace of God, despite the fact that we also have some security plans of our own. Security in town is actually beefed up to some point. The government is doing enough because you'll see police patrols here and there.
Right.
But again, you realize, just like the president said some time back, we can't have one policeman for
One Kenyan.
one Kenyan. That is a point we all have come to live with. So the security situation is not very good, but we can't say it's bad.
All right. Well, you keep doing your thing. Bring us while you're asleep every night. Any ideas on what your next feature will be?
We are working on something almost every night. But now, what is almost, what I haven't told you is that the reason why we resulted into doing stories such as feature stories of things that happen at night, it is not because there are no real-time stories that happen at night, but it is because these real-time stories that take place at night, most of them are commonly bad news. Last night, someone was knocked down by a vehicle at around City Stadium, a hit-and-run case, just last night. And this person, were it not for the help of some Red Cross officers, he would have died on the scene. And while we were getting that call, another person had actually had an accident somewhere in Meru. So you realize, for example, if we choose, for example, next week to give you real-time stories of everything that happens at night,
then we end up missing a lot.
We will be telling you about accident after another, accident after fire, fire after traffic snarl-up and such. So we chose to try and do features to give a perspective of there's this nature that the media will always highlight the bad things. So we try to bring in that aspect of some positive stories that happen. But we will also, it doesn't stop us from giving the other side of the story.
The good side, absolutely. And actually, just to wind up, when you mentioned the county askaris at night, KTN did a story not very long ago on the county askaris in Nairobi County, and that was on Jicho Pevu, I believe, a while back. And the follow-up wasn't very good, especially from the county askaris themselves, hitting out at KTN for exposing such issues. But in your stories at night, have you noticed any change in terms of the way they conduct themselves, in terms of the way they handle the workers at night?
I don't know what will change these people, if at all they are bad, because you will, I don't know what exactly is the relationship between those who sell and the county askaris, because you will always see people running in town because of county askaris. You'll always see people in town complaining that if we give you an interview about how I'm selling my coffee, tomorrow county askaris will be here. It took us a lot of time before we did the interview about the two teachers who abandoned teaching. But the complaint has always been the same. I think we need to bridge that gap and get to understand what exactly is the type of relationship we need to create between county askaris and police officers. Some of them will tell you, actually they have told us that it will be easier for you to handle a police officer than to handle a county askari.
All right. Well, that's a story that we will definitely keep tabs on. Brian Obuya is our reporter in the night, bringing us while you were